Hi, welcome to me and my friend's podcast about physical therapy. This is our first ever episode. In this episode, we cover our stories about how we decided on a career in physical therapy and our kind of path to getting into school. Then we go into some strategies and advice for your first ever PT school semester. And we finally finish with trying to decide on a name for the podcast. So we'll get into it. All right, what's up, guys? My name's Chris. I'm here with my friends Artem and KP. We are all in the same PT program. We're all PT students in our second year, and we are doing a little podcast together as like a little fun thing that we think you guys might enjoy as well. So welcome. We're kind of keeping it pretty low-key, pretty informal with this. We think like some of what goes on with like physical therapy podcasts is kind of
a little too uptight.
Yeah, a little too uptight, kind of corny at times. So we're just trying to give you guys like the real deal with what we go through in school, and we just like to sit around and bullshit and have fun. So
sometimes you gotta.
Sometimes you do have to do that. So that's kind of what we're thinking with this. Do you guys have anything to add for?
No, that's about it. We're just trying to keep it loose, give you some advice and some entertainment.
Yeah, you can take it or leave it. Might not be worth much, but
you made it this far. You might as well stay for the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Please.
It's only gonna get better. So.
The 10 listeners that are out there that are all our classmates.
10, dude. Jesus Christ.
Well, you know.
Dad.
We're killing it then.
Yeah. Double digits. So anyway, what we thought we would do is start with just introductions, who we are, give you a little background about us and kind of what brought us to PT school. So yeah, I guess we'll just go one by one. I guess do either you guys want to start, or I mean we can kind of like talk to each other while we're doing it. It feels kind of weird to be
I guess I actually don't know either of your stories coming into PT
I mean
school.
it kind of is, yeah. Like I don't know that any of us know too much, so this will be interesting for us as well.
All right, I'll start. So I got into PT school. Actually, it was a pretty rough ride for me. I was a personal trainer for yeah. I was a personal trainer for like 3.5 years. I worked in like one-on-one and like group fitness type training, and I was an undergrad at Temple for kinesiology. And during like the application process, I applied to like I don't know how many, like 8 to 10 schools or something like that, all like local Philly area type schools. And
I didn't tell them where we go to school, or should I keep that on the down?
Yeah, no, it's a secret.
We'll keep it a
secret.
You'll have to guess.
Get the viewers up.
So I applied to schools like my junior year or whatever, and then the denial letters started coming in. I didn't have like the best GPA, and I think that's what kind of screwed me. But it came down to like 3 schools where I got like waitlisted. And I was like really hoping, and then I got to like midsummer of like the year that I would start, and I said, you know what, fuck this, like I'm probably not getting on a wait list. So I actually left my job, and I like started out as an independent trainer. So I started getting clients, started like marketing and stuff, and then I got a call from our school. This was like a week before PT school started. And they told me I got accepted, so I was like, oh shit. So now I gotta drop all my clients. I got to move about an hour and a half away. I got to find a place to live so I could start going to PT school. But honestly, that was like the best thing that's ever happened to me. It was pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah.
It was really, I started actually filling out the application for the following year to get in. So
the thing I remember first about you was that you weren't there like the second week of school. You went away. I think to California or something.
Yeah, because I booked the trip with my buddies to California.
Yeah, because you didn't think you were going to. You had already booked it before you got in.
Yeah. So I was like, that looks good to my professors. I start school and I just leave for a week. But, it worked out.
That's cool. Yeah. So I'm, I guess, a little bit different situation, a little bit older than most of the kids in our class. 40. Yeah, I don't look my age, but
he's actually my dad.
One of two.
Yeah,
And I'm also his dad.
Both my dads are here for support. Yeah, so I was, I guess, 26 when I decided to even try to get into PT school, maybe 25. But I remember I was like super depressed at the time because I was just not really like happy with where I was, I guess, life-wise. Like I was a personal trainer as well, like a little small personal training studio, mostly like one-on-one clients, small group training, and I thought I wanted to like own my own gym. I was also a kinesiology major in undergrad, University of Maryland, College Park, not BC. Weren't in the tournament. But yeah, so I thought I wanted to like own my own place and all that, and I kind of saw what it meant to have like a private studio and sort of getting further into personal training. It just seemed like it wasn't for me. So then at that point, I was kind of just like fucking lost and didn't really know what I wanted to do, and like this is the plan like my whole life, and that, or for like a couple of years, and now it's like, what do I do? But I started getting into like some of Kelly Starrett's stuff with Mobility WOD and FMS. One of our trainers at the place I worked at, he had his FMS certification and was using that with different clients. And I started seeing results from using some of those principles with the people I was working with, and it was pretty cool. And actually, so I started, I had been to like a chiropractor a couple of times, and they had used like ART on me. So I was like, I want to be able to do ART. It's like a hands-on thing. It's like you can actually get pretty cool changes. So I started looking at like what's the easiest path to being able to get ART. And one was massage therapy, and like one was chiropractic, one was physical therapy. So I actually started looking into massage therapy first. And it was like 2-year programs at like community colleges, and I saw like you had to do, I guess, rotations, they call it, at hospitals. And I was like, I'm gonna be fucking like massaging these like gross people.
That's
maybe, I mean,
story of your life.
Yeah, right, exactly. I still do it. Who would have thought?
To this day.
But so then I was just thinking more about it. I'm like, do I really see myself as a massage therapist? Not really. Nothing wrong with being a massage therapist, but so then I was like PT school, I guess, and it seemed like, you know, I still had some prereqs to get done, but it seemed fairly manageable. I didn't really know going into the process how hard it was to get into school, and then I also started working as a tech at a outpatient physical therapy clinic back in Maryland, where I'm from, and did that for about 1.5 years while I was doing prereqs, so chem, physics, taking the GRE, did fucking terrible on the GRE. That was probably what held my application down the most. Also got basically denied by every school I applied to. I think that's like pretty like much the story with everyone in our class.
Oh yeah.
It's for the most part.
My top choice. I only applied.
But anyway, so I started getting the rejection letters as well, and was like, you know, maybe this just isn't for me. At that point, again, I was already like older, and I was starting to think like, what do I do then? And then I got an email the summer before we started in the fall saying I got on the wait list here, and I actually got like super excited about that. But then I still had to be like, well, it doesn't really mean you're going to get in. I mean, you just got on the wait list. I was like, I'll probably not get in. So I was like, I'll just go through it again next year. I'll give myself 1 more year to try again. A couple weeks later, I got another email saying I did get in. And that's basically how I got into school. And like Artem said, I mean, it's been probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. I've really enjoyed school, our program. It's just been, you know, just super grateful for everything. So that's kind of how I got here.
Word. Yeah. So I'm a little bit different as well, but we're all like kind of similar at the same time. I originally in high school, I remember like junior year. Should we get closer? Junior year we had
We're
like
already
this,
getting closer through
that was
this
symbolism.
process.
Junior
We're
year,
talking into cameras.
yeah, guidance counselor came into one of our classes and was like, all right, you need to decide what you want to go to school for, basically. And I was like, I don't know. I remember like this website, and I was like, all right, physical therapy within the area. And then I found a good school. I was also playing soccer in high school.
Nice.
Sick drop. I know.
Classic.
College athlete.
Pretty big athlete. D3, nothing crazy, you know. D3. So I contacted the coach, and then we were in contact for a little bit through senior year, but I never really like committed, so we kind of lost contact. And then one tournament, like right before I was about to graduate high school, we got in contact again, and he had already like made his team, but I was like, I'm thinking about going to this school. And he was like, all right, like I'll make a spot for you. It's not like we have to like pay you. Sick NCAA drop too. I was like, yeah. So I ended up going there. Kind of like fell out of physical therapy during my first couple of years. Thought I wanted to do like bio something for a while. So yeah, that was a ridiculous mistake. And then I got hurt my senior year, so I didn't play my senior year. And I ended up going to physical therapy for my knee, and like just kind of, this kind of sound gooey, but like fell in love with physical therapy. So I like started looking into it more, ended up applying to that program that I was in, but I was already like too late. So I ended up getting waitlisted there, didn't get in. So I ended up taking a year off after my senior year, started working in a PT place, both inpatient, outpatient, for a pretty big hospital in Jersey. And then started filling out my applications again, like these guys, sending out like 8, 9, 10. The money starts piling up, but it's like whatever. You hear like horror stories.
Yeah.
Someone on the DBT Facebook page the other day said, I think it's harder to get into PT school than med school now, and I kind of agree with that.
Well,
just because not like
Right.
you're smarter for being
Yeah,
a PT
right.
school. I'm not saying that, but the amount of competition, the amount of volume going into schools now, and like the limited amount of spaces they have, I honestly think it's true.
Yeah. Oh, I remember hearing like a statistic where this could totally be bullshit, but it was like the acceptance rate for PT schools like 3%, med schools like 2% or something like that. Something crazy like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty close.
But yeah, anyway, I remember getting my acceptance letter to this school too. I got it via email first because I was at work at my PT practice.
Send you a text.
Yeah, you up? Yeah, I got that, and I was like so ecstatic for the rest of the day. It was awesome because I had already been waitlisted like by 3 or 4 schools, denied by a couple. I was like, oh God, it's happening again.
It's fucking trouble out here.
It was just like, here goes a waste of money. Got that. Was so pumped. Wanted to tell my family, but I didn't know how. So I like rolled it up in an envelope, put it on the table, and like I think I went to like the gym or something. Another humble brag. Went to the gym or something, and then had them like open it up while I was away to like surprise them, I guess. And they were like pretty pumped about it.
Your mom threw it out. She's like, what the fuck is this?
Shreds it. But yeah, that and then ended up here. Met these 2 guys. Part of that sort of like built us together too, that the research group that we were in, which we'll probably talk about at some later point, but just kind of was thrown in, didn't really know what to expect for the first semester or school in general. Was kind of nervous, like it's PT school, it's grad school, it's going to be different than undergrad. I remember like studying for weeks for our first developmental quiz and didn't need to at all, but that's similar stories, but like a different path, sort of.
Yeah, it is interesting, I guess, how that works.
Yeah.
Kind of.
And I think a lot of people are in the same boat as me. Maybe like half and half between us. Because I took a year off. I know a lot of people like were at least a year between. And then a lot of people, or I should say, like a couple more people graduated the same year that they started, but didn't necessarily think they were going to go here for PT school. Maybe a backup, if you will.
People in our class. Yeah. Should we talk about the program, where we go?
Why not?
Yeah. So.
So we go to Alvernia University in Reading, Pennsylvania. If any of you know where that is, it's like an hour away from Philadelphia. So kind of within that area. There's actually not like a ton of, there's like a decent amount of PT schools around here.
Yeah, way more than New Jersey, because I remember applying to New Jersey and there were like 4, there was one like building, like a new program was building, but I think like Rutgers had 2 and like there was like 4 or 5 total in New Jersey.
And I
Pennsylvania
think
has a good amount.
they're like
Good
really
amount,
centered around Philadelphia,
Philly,
and then
Yeah.
this one's kind of like a little bit outside of that
Yeah.
radius, but
Yeah, I
It's
know
fairly
in Maryland
close.
there's only 2 total in the whole state.
Yeah.
So that was one of the reasons I was thinking I would like wait. Even when I actually got the acceptance here, I was like, because the difference in tuition is so big from like Maryland in-state tuition versus this, I almost considered like waiting a year and trying again to one of those 2 schools.
Mhm.
But I've just figured at the time it's like, you know, who knows if this chance is going to come around again. I mean, no
Yeah.
guarantee that I get in
Yeah,
the next time
absolutely.
around. So.
I actually forgot that too. I got into a school in California too.
Oh,
I don't know if I've
shit,
ever
really?
told-
Fuck
University
that,
of
dude.
St. Augustine.
Should've gone there.
It's known for like being the biggest PT program. I think
Wait,
they have like
is that
100
in
students.
California or Florida?
There's 2. There's one in
I was
Florida,
going to
one
say, I
in-
think I've heard
one
of the
in,
Florida one.
California.
Yeah.
And a couple of my teammates went there. That's why I know about it.
Oh, wow.
So they like got their own place. It's pretty awesome. And it's by like San Diego.
Wait, so you got into school in California, and you decided to come to Reading?
It was like a pending one. It was so weird. I was like texting this seat. I don't even know what she was. I guess I don't even know who I was talking to. But she was like, "All right, you just need to take this one course and like pass, and then we'll like get it accepted." And I was like, I was kind of like
Sounds
holding
real
off because I
special.
didn't want to take another course
Yeah.
to move all the way out to California. I was still like hesitant about that.
Yeah.
'Cause that's a big thing. And then like a week later, I got the acceptance letter to
Yeah.
Alvernia.
Yeah,
So.
if you're spending a lot of money here,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That was the other fucking weird thing though about like applying to schools, like what classes certain schools needed and what
Yeah,
others
so
like
bizarre.
didn't need,
Yeah.
and like deadlines, like like
Yeah.
all schools are different with deadlines. And I remember like also the supplemental applications
Dude,
could
that's
be
a
like
money grab.
$200. So
It's
I literally
insane.
started just like at the end, like the last probably 5 or 6 schools I applied to was literally just a search of who didn't have a supplemental application, and that's who I applied to. It was like,
Yeah, man.
I'm up against it anyway, so I'm not gonna like.
Dude, the one supplemental
Overexert myself.
application I did was $60, and it asks you if you like were ever convicted of a crime.
That was the question.
Yeah, then there's like literally 2 questions I think, and one
It
of
was
them
a
was
test.
that.
They wanted you to tell a story.
And then you paid $60, and that was it.
For them to say no.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thanks.
But yeah, I think the website though kind of like streamlines it with the ones
Yeah,
that don't have
PT-Cast.
supplement. Yeah,
Yeah.
PT-Cast. That like helps like put your resume in there, put your transcripts in there.
For
But
sure.
yeah, but it is annoying. Like each one you have to pay a certain fee for, and then yeah, obviously take your GREs. It's a multi-step process,
Yeah.
and it's like it's not only time consuming, it's costly too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think a huge step for the PT profession in general is the 3+3, 4+3
Mhm.
program. As long as you like maintain a certain GPA, you're guaranteed admission, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
mean, the application process is probably the most stressful
Yeah.
process.
Definitely.
Honestly, I
Yeah.
think it was more stressful for me than actual being in
Yeah.
PT school.
Yeah.
Like, I was
seriously.
really stressing out
Just-
about that shit because it's your future, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Once
many
you're-
moving parts too to
Yeah.
keep track of, and like I didn't know you could like send in the application before you had necessarily everything done.
Right.
Like
you
some of
just
your
have to show
classes
that you're
could
working
still
and
be-
doing it,
yeah. So that probably screwed me on some applications because I like got it in later than I should have.
Right.
And like honestly, I took courses that were mandatory that I just don't see a point in have taken
Oh, for
before
sure.
Yeah.
before PT school. I'm trying to think of like what it was, but I remember thinking like I probably could have entered this PT program after like my 3rd year of college
Right.
without like any maybe like
or,
bio
or
and
at
chem
least
courses.
like the last 3 years, because the first year
First
you
year,
spend so
yeah.
much time in bullshit classes
Yeah.
that are again like
Yeah.
just wasting your money.
Yeah.
But like the last 3 years is where like especially like if you're exercise science or kines,
Yeah.
like you're actually getting the physiology and all the hard sciences, which
Yeah.
is kind of
Yeah.
vital. So
So I was a bio major. Where were you guys?
I was kinesiology,
with kines,
Kines.
yeah.
which
Wait, I was actually just thinking about that today. In my kines major, we had an intro to kines, but we never actually had a kinesiology
Really?
class. Like we had biomechanics,
Yeah.
exercise science,
we had
Yeah.
biomechanics.
but like never a kinesiology class.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think looking back on it now, like hindsight 2020, I think athletic training is the way to go for undergrad.
That would have been cool.
You come out with a certification.
Yeah.
You have like hands-on
Right.
experience, which I think a lot of people, that's like one of the hardest things we have like time with is the hands-on practical stuff. Like it just takes time and reps. So if you already have somewhat of a knowledge base on certain special tests or whatever it may be that you learn in athletic training, palpation, things like that. And like I said, you're already coming out with a certification that you could work with. So, I mean, I think like Matt's one of the stronger people in our class just because of
Name drop.
Sorry,
Matt.
First guest?
Yeah, maybe Ken Hoover.
Kenny.
Yeah, we'll try not to speak too much about our class, but but our program though, we should probably say is this is probably the only reason I'm in PT school right now is because our program is in the process of getting accredited.
Yeah.
So we might not even be physical therapists. But no, I think like our program's really solid. I think all of our faculty, professors are great. Definitely fully confident that we get the accreditation, which we hear about in April or May of this year. So like a month or two. I mean, I see no.
If you
no
guys
reason
don't
why
hear
we-
from us after May, it means we didn't get it.
They cut our podcast funding. We're not sponsored by
Yeah.
blank anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers our intros.
Taylor, you want to go into some short advice?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about first semester, basically just tying into the theme of getting into school and then when you initially start. So that's kind of like what we were thinking about with different episodes is, one portion of the episode being something like an advice section, either for people who are thinking about PT school or people who are already in PT school, or like reading through a research article and kind of giving our thoughts on that, or a video we saw or something. All three of us, I think, not only like the stuff inside the classroom, but also learning from different guys online and different resources.
It's a good piece of advice right there. Make sure you go outside the scope of the class and
Mhm.
look at other things.
That's so true.
Yeah, I mean, PT school is all about doing what CAPTI wants. That's why all these programs are accredited, is because they're teaching the curriculum that's been decided on. But in my opinion, where the actual field of physical therapy is in like the real time, it's not in the classroom. That's probably like a couple years behind where certain people are in their thought processes about certain techniques or what they're doing.
Yeah.
TA draws.
And that kind of circles back to the whole getting into PT school thing. I hate to say this, but there are like 4.0 students that I just do not think will be good physical therapists, but I think if you have a passion for it outside the classroom and maybe you didn't do so hot in like a chemistry 2 course, and you don't have that 3.7 GPA. Actually, Mike Reinhold had a podcast about that too. It was like, what could you do to get into PT school better? And it was like, just learn from other people, and then if you have an interview that with a school, show them that you're interested not only in PT but in their program and what you've learned from outside clinicians and when you've worked as an aide or whatever. And I mean, the grades help. I'm not saying grades don't matter, but I definitely think that going outside the scope of the classroom, like these two said, is definitely a huge benefit for you as a physical therapist.
Because then you'll be up to date with the current research and the methods when you get out of school, and you're not playing catch up when you're already a graduate and you're already working. I think that's pretty vital.
Yeah, and so much of physical therapy is your ability to communicate with patients. I mean, you could have the most book smarts in the world, but most of that doesn't mean shit to a patient. I mean, they don't know what a L5 pablum is or whatever the fuck you're talking about or doing with them. So if you can't communicate what you're doing with them and get across the fact that you're trying to help them and you're there to be supportive to them in their rehab process, they're not going to buy in to the whole process itself or to you as a therapist, in my opinion. And I've seen that. I mean, I back that up with what I've seen in the clinic, and I think that is one of the strengths of a lot of our professors, is that they're good clinicians.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
they look at that as important. I think some schools, from what I've heard, well, obviously only been in one program, but some schools are more research-based and sort of more classroom knowledge-based, which
Yeah.
is still important, but sometimes it lacks on the practical application
Yeah.
side.
So if you have a professor who's been a professor for the last 20 years and hasn't practiced in 20 years, they kind of don't have a lot of skin in the game and a lot of practical information for you within the current kind of research and the methodology in the
Yeah.
field.
I think that's so evident in all of our professors. They'll be like doing Goni or something and not really paying attention to Goni at all, just paying attention to like the quality of the motion rather than the quantity. And like they stress that so much, but obviously like knowing the skills in Goni is like standard baseline, you know, like gold standard for measuring a lot of range of motion, but at the same time they like to step back and see like, all right, what's the next step? Yeah, they're limited in that range of motion, and that comes with practice too. I'm sure they like see it before we will
Right.
ever see it, but like they'll notice a limited range of motion, hypomobility, and they'll be thinking of like, all right, why is that happening? Like what's the quality of that? And I think that's because they continue to practice and have been in the clinic.
Totally.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess what we're going to transition into next, sort of this whole theme of getting into school and starting out, is just tips or advice for the first semester. I think that can be like KP, you were kind of saying in your intro, kind of something that you were nervous about, which I think is only natural. I mean, I was kind of the same way. It's like the unknown.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely different than undergrad. It's a whole different type of learning experience, or it should be. I mean, I think you have to approach it that way.
Absolutely.
So maybe we can get into some of that. So I guess maybe we can just lay out like what our semester was like.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
And,
Yeah.
I know.
We had anatomy.
So I dropped developmental before. I know we had that first semester. Anatomy was another one. I think we had like an ethics course.
We did have an ethics course.
Physical therapy ethics.
We had a procedures with mostly all like inpatient type.
And then was it just clinic? Clinical?
So our program, we've done part-time clinicals every semester, which is I think a little bit different than other schools. So first semester in the program, we were out in the clinic part-time, 1 day a week I think at that point, for like 4 hours, and then did our first full-time over the summer of our first year. But yes, I think that was basically our first semester right there. I think they did a good job of easing us in. I mean, anatomy was like our only really difficult class.
Developmental was a cool course. There was just like a lot to learn in a shortened amount of time. I'd like to revisit that, and we are, like, as we go through like muscular courses, we're going back to pediatrics and stuff. But to like,
it is a lot
to remember all like the reflexes and the developmental delays of peds is difficult. Difficult, especially when you're in anatomy. Anatomy took like the majority of my time. I mean, I remember getting we had like muscle tables and just memorizing muscles and origin, insertion, action, nerve, making note card after note card. I think we had like over 200 muscles at the end of the semester to memorize for the final. So that took a lot of my time. But I think it helped because, I mean, we use it every day. Not that the other courses aren't as important, but really knowing your anatomy is like the first step to being a good clinician.
That's your foundation.
That's why you're a movement scientist, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think from both, so where I worked before I started school, there was probably like 10 therapists, and then all of our clinical experiences since, the best PTs that I've seen are the ones who know their anatomy inside and out.
Yeah,
that's just
and your physiology, your biology, just your basic sciences. If you don't know that, like that first semester, you're playing catch up right there.
Yeah,
you have to know all that stuff. If you can get it down before you get into school, that's. I mean, even for myself, I didn't do a very good job of nailing those down, and like I found myself playing catch up with some of that stuff. But it is what it is.
Yeah, no, I think that was definitely my biggest, in terms of classes, that was the one I would like to go back and like redo at this point, was just putting more effort into anatomy. I sort of was still approaching classes as like an undergrad approach almost, and just trying to do enough to get by maybe like the week before the test. and wasn't really staying on top of things, kind of doing a little bit each day, which would have been a better strategy with anatomy. And then I think just repetition too, that's like the biggest part of PT school. Like, I think our program does a good job of building repetition into the curriculum. So a lot of the stuff we had in anatomy, origins, insertions, carried into kinese in the spring of our first year, carried into musculoskeletal, carried into like neuro to certain components. But if it's not built into the program that you're in, like, you have to build repetition, and you're no fucking way do you remember stuff that happened in human development in your third year.
Yeah.
So you almost are forced, I think, to have to do that on your own if that's not being done within your curriculum, which I don't really know how other schools approach it. But
Yeah.
I think a big thing about first semester too is finding a study partner, honestly, just like bouncing muscles. I remember like going through note cards while in another class to like study for anatomy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like palpating all the time. The more like people you palpate, the more comfortable you are doing it. That was like a huge barrier, I think, with a lot of people, like you said before, like getting that manual touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
But like finding someone in the middle, like realizing that this is grad school now, just like don't worry, don't like be too good for anyone. It's not like you're competing against everyone, you're competing against the board eventually. And even you're not even competing against the professors, because they're on your side too. They need you to pass. They don't want you to fail at all. They're gonna push you, but ask for their support. I think that was a big thing too. They offered like extra office hours and stuff if you needed it. I really think I like needed it, but I could see some people needing it. But yeah, and then just getting into the lab, practicing, looking at skeletons and around the class, and like just thinking constantly about anatomy, and it makes you think. I remember like just like moving one day and like thinking about what was going on in my body.
I was just
like,
gonna say, like, if you exercise, like you're going to the gym, like whatever you're doing, like think about what muscles you're using, where the insertions and origins insertions are, and like the actions of the muscles are. I think that you're kind of working out, but you're also studying.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is it's hard in the moment to be able to pinpoint it, but focus more on the main muscles, like the ones you're gonna be seeing that are involved in a lot of injuries. You know, not necessarily some of your like foot intrinsics or like. Obviously, you need to know enough to pass the test, but if you actually want to be a good therapist, you have to be able to rattle off, or know muscles that you're going to be seeing on a daily basis. The muscles of the rotator cuff, major muscles of the lower extremity, foot and ankle, not necessarily the ones that are really hard to memorize, so like don't study those.
Don't get down on yourself if you can't memorize them all, because you'll be constantly referring back to your notes, back to your books in the future. So like try to get as much as you can, but then like know that you'll be referring back to your basics all the time. And I'm sure the same thing when we get out of school in the clinic, like you'll be referring back to your notes. Absolutely. And then another piece of advice, kind of as an overarching thing, with everything we've been saying, is build like a system for yourself of like how you study and like your routines and things like that. Because I know for me, like I didn't really have a very good like study routine or anything in undergrad. I just kind of memorized everything and did well, and, passed the test. But it's not about necessarily memorizing everything, but like you actually want to understand and learn all the material. So if you get a system down for yourself that works, like you could use that all throughout PT school. And I think the first semester obviously is a good place to start, to start figuring out what works for you.
What I did was made like an 8-hour day. So I pretended it was work, 8-hour day, 40 hours a week, and then plus weekends if you needed to, including class time. So if you're in class for 5 hours a day, try to break it up. Just go to study for like 3 hours at the night, which I found really helpful. It helps break it up too. If you go to the class for 2 hours, take a rest, eat, go back for another 3 hours, and then you've already done 5 hours of work that day. try to put in another hour and a half here and there, and then by the end of the day you'll have 8 hours, plus you'll have plenty of time to eat, sleep, go to the gym.
Don't forget to do those things too.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. What did you guys do for that stuff?
Well, like what KP was saying, well, if I could give myself one piece of advice, like going back to the first semester, it'd be to start waking up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys do, but like I like to get up a few hours before school. Or before we start class. I mean, I'll get a cup of coffee and I'll just do like 2 hours of work, just because I don't like staying up late and I like feel like I'm really ineffective at night. So like I'll do like 2 hours of work before class, go to class, maybe do another like hour or two afterwards, and then I have time to go to the gym. I have time to make dinner and like meal prep, and I can watch like an episode on Netflix and like go to bed.
You can easily spiral out of control if you don't organize like that.
Yeah.
Because then you're waking up, say you have 7 a.m. class, you wake up at 6:30, you're rushing to class, you're already tired, so you eat shit for lunch, then you feel like shit, so you like fall asleep before you can study, then you wake up and have Taco Bell for dinner, and it's like spiral. And then you're rushing, so you have fast food. It's like control what you can, and then don't worry about what you can't, but control what you can, because then it's all downhill after that.
Set those routines, literally be like a fucking robot about it. Like just do the same shit every day, like find out what works, do the same shit every day. And
it's not going to be fun.
No, it's not. It's a job. It's a job.
I mean, at the same time, though, it's like what you want to be doing.
Exactly.
Like, if you want to fucking be a good physical therapist, like, you have 3 years right now to get ahead of, like, other people. Because I guarantee not everyone is doing that routine. Like, some people are just coasting by. And if it's, your goal to actually be a good therapist, then set yourself up for success now and to continue with in the future. I mean, that's what this is. Like we said, this isn't undergrad anymore. Like this is your career. You're already in your career. It's just a check at 3 years whether or not you learned enough to get your way in. But otherwise you should be approaching it like you're already a therapist, in my opinion. I think mindset is huge too. I think some people struggle with the confidence. Like, I mean,
resiliency is a big factor too. Like how you handle like perturbations.
Yeah.
In school and in life, and how that affects you. Like if you can bounce back from like doing shitty on the test, but if like you have shitty resilience and like you're just like dwelling on it, and like you're not getting back to your work, you kind of have to learn to like let that stuff go and like figure out how you're gonna do better.
Right. Practicals are like, I mean, I feel like that's a big freak out for everyone, or some people, more than others. But again, that comes back from like mindset and how you approach it. Like, you're a first year fucking PT student. Like, you're not expected to be a entry level clinician. Show some confidence in what you can do and what you've learned, and just act like you're a PT. I mean, that's what you're gonna be. So I think some people just approach it as like, I'm a student, I'm like below the people who are like teaching me, like faculty members or outside like clinical instructors. But
I think I'm better than all of them.
I mean, you're a peer of theirs. Fucking act like it. I think
that's where clinicals come in huge too. It's like being able to practice and then just verbalizing with your CI, like how much you do know, how much you're confident in doing, and then they won't push you. A good CI will push you to your limit, but they won't exceed your limit, because at the end of the day, it's their patient, it's their license on the line anyway.
Right.
But yeah, I think a good CI is like the best part about PT school. Honestly, you can learn as much as you want in the classroom. It's being able to implement that in your practice. That's at the end of the day, that's how you get paid.
Yeah, just remember, being uncomfortable is good.
Exactly.
Like, you don't want to be comfortable. You don't learn
Something's wrong if you're comfortable.
Yeah,
right?
You don't learn anything when you're comfortable. You have to step out of your comfort zone. That's where you like grow and learn.
And again, it's like you have 3 years to make free mistakes. It's like you're never gonna make mistakes like so bad that things are gonna like really.
Just don't kill anyone.
You get one of those, I think.
Just remember your open mouth X-rays. Anytime there's a neck patient, open mouth X-ray. That's
All right, you guys want to go into picking a name?
Is that what we're gonna finish with? Yeah. So we need to figure out a name for this podcast. We didn't really go in with one, but
Yeah, we kind of just decided to wing this.
I didn't even start the timer.
I think we're
It was 40
like at
minutes.
42
Okay.
minutes.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
What are you guys thinking? Should we ask them?
Yeah. Hey guys, what do you?
Studio
Anyone
audience.
fucking there?
Where's our producer, Jamie? You in there?
Jamie.
Biggest favorite
shout-
muscle?
Shout out to Joe Rogan.
Favorite muscle.
That's a big question.
And why?
Oh, and why?
Gotta throw the NY in there.
Dude, you just threw me off, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm in a mental
I've never thought about
pretzel
it.
right now.
I know glute max is a pretty sweet muscle, man.
Yeah.
Ooh.
No, not glute med.
Everybody.
I was just
Nah.
about to say.
No, glute max, dude, all the way.
Glute med is definitely like a hipster muscle,
Totally.
you know?
No,
That's
it's
the
just like
current,
the,
hot
it's like
thing.
just like the, I don't know. I feel like everyone likes the glute med, you know.
Everybody?
Yeah, I feel like it's
I
the
can see that.
opposite of a hipster muscle.
Hmm.
I feel like glute max is a.
What would be a hipster muscle?
I don't know.
That's a
It's
good
some
question.
fucking off the wall.
Like maybe like a foot intrinsic.
Foot and yeah. Could see that. Build a system around treating the
Yeah.
foot intrinsics.
That's your.
I guarantee you there is one.
Yeah, probably.
I don't, yeah, I don't,
I-
that's why I asked. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not
I would-
sure.
I'm kind of leaning towards piriformis. For
This is
some
such a
reason.
fucking nerd conversation.
Maybe that's
Piriform is a good
Maybe
one.
that's our name. Nerd.
Glute max has some transverse plane motion, so I think that's pretty sweet.
Any love for the transverse abdominis or?
That'll be our next podcast.
That'll
We'll get
be
back
another
to
We
it.
can
hour.
talk for days. On that.
So yeah, picking a name. So we are student physical therapists.
Right. So something like 3 SPTs. That was my idea.
So like three
With that.
amigos.
The 3 amigos, yeah. The 3 SPTs.
Amigos.
The 3
Let's
amigos.
just steal their name.
Yeah, dude. I don't
Three
know.
Stooges.
The 3 Stooges.
What else is there 3 of? We only have 2 dads. So.
No bullshit PT podcast.
No
No.
bullshit.
What did we say before we even started this?
Oh, Untamed.
Untamed. How did we get there?
Because we were gonna
That's
say
how it's gonna have
we
to
went
happen.
from unnamed PT
Unnamed.
podcast to
Yeah.
untamed PT.
Well, this is like naming a baby. You don't just like come out with it randomly. It just comes up,
Right.
or you don't like force it. It just comes up like daily conversation or something.
Okay.
Okay.
So we have a
Just-
week.
To make up
to
the
come up
name.
with a name?
For now, it's the Unnamed PT podcast.
Okay, guys, if you have any suggestions for our name, please send them in. To,
DM me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to go through the Instagram?
Oh yeah.
Shout
where
out
can
your-
we put them
find
right
you?
here? Can we do that?
Producer?
I think we're our producer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Sponsored by.
Someone will put it in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your Instagram?
Kyle Veltri. KYLEVELTRE.
Okay, at Kyle Veltri.
Yes, sir.
I am at DPT Reality.
Oh,
It's
we
a
didn't talk
little
about this.
By the way, guys,
Instagram
yeah,
account
shout
I
out-
started.
We'll talk about that next episode.
Yeah, we can talk about
Come back
this.
next week.
No,
Okay,
yeah.
so at DPT Reality, and I am at ARTEMIMNADZE. It's a tough one.
Bless you.
So,
All right, guys, thank you for
all right,
listening.
thanks, guys. Yeah.
Catch you next week.
Next week.